I think I need to talk to someone. Lately, it's feel like my life has been up underwater. It's like rain. It's like darkness. It's like...
The sun will rise every morning, and the birds will sing every morning. The river will flow, and the breeze will sweep through the trees every morning. And every morning I awake with the same thought: to live in my purpose, on purpose. I have plenty friends, and I have the love of my family. This is what pushes me through each day. But sometimes it seems like the sun is setting just too fast. And before you know it, I'm surrounded by black. Nothing but the stars over my head and the rain on my face. It's like I'm standing in a hole, unable to climb out. This is what depression feels like to me. See, I've been dealing with this for over 20 years. Now, I'm not saying that every day is a bad day, but any bad day is a bad day. Now, this is my story, but it's not just my story. It's the story of so many other people who deal with depression on a daily basis. So I went and got some friends who deal with it as well. I said, man, let's tell them our story in our own words.
How can I describe it? It's like never being able to really fully enjoy being happy. It's like you can't get your body and your emotions on the same page. Like you just feel like you're sinking. You just know that something's just not right.
Depression to me is that aching feeling that just comes from the depth of your soul that nothing seems to can repair it or heal it. Depression to me feels like death. It's like grieving, a constant grief that you just cannot seem to knock. No matter how much you go on, no matter how much you try to do, there is this inner feeling inside of you that just seems to never settle.
Depression feels like the heaviest blanket. It covers everything. Everything I see be the brightest light, but depression can just blow it out. It makes me feel like I can't do something. It makes me feel like everything is half empty.
Depression is a stifling feeling of like you're being choked. I heard it said that depression was like drowning without ever dying, you know? It's frustration, it's dark, it's wet. It's not like you could just look at somebody and tell they're depressed. I mean, so while you going through work and your daily activities, you don't know who's dealing with something. You just don't know.
Depression, from a clinical standpoint, is an individual who suffers from a series of symptoms in a 2-week period, such as significant loss of pleasure or interest in activities they once engaged in, hyperinsomnia, meaning they sleep too much, insomnia, they don't sleep enough. An individual will have significant increase in feelings of self-worth. They don't feel like they can do anything. They don't feel worthy of anything, and they're struggling.
Personally, in depression, I felt very alone, and you feel like there's nobody that can understand how you feel right now. And so there's an embarrassment that comes with it too, because you don't want to admit that there are some things that are hard to carry and that you don't know how to do it by yourself.
Depression to me is different for everybody. When I'm having my moments of depression, I just want to be isolated from the world. I want to shut off from the world. It's almost like I'm in darkness, in a space of black, a space of non-existence. I'm alone. And I can be in a room full of people. I can be around my family and my friends. And I feel like I'm a robot. I'm just functioning to look normal, but really on the inside, I'm not normal. I'm not close to being normal.
I mean, when you really think about it, 350 million people, 350 million people worldwide are dealing with depression on some level. And maybe 20% might seek help, so the rest just gonna rough it out their whole life, man. You don't know who they are, what they do for a living, what they look like, but it's like their life is just constantly climbing the stairs, but going nowhere. It's like a hamster on a wheel. You gotta change that. I first knew something was wrong. I was actually incarcerated. I had just did 7 years and I got a parole, so I had 60 days to get out of prison. And I woke up one day, it was a Sunday, and I had a feeling like somebody hurt my feelings, like you broke up with somebody. And I dismissed it, And I woke up the next day and that feeling was still there. And I think I attribute it to anxiety. I'm about to go home. I've been gone almost 7 years. But every day it got worse and worse. And I'm gonna say within like 7 days, I knew something was wrong. I knew this can't be just anxiety. But I had never heard the word depression. So I just kept going and going. And I tell people this, and it sounds extreme, but it's the truth. Before I left in 60 days, I knew I wasn't gonna make it on the street. That's how severe it was. I knew something is wrong and I'm not gonna make it.
I really started feeling different probably in about my mid-20s when I started noticing my dad died a week before I turned 19, and he had committed suicide. And, it leaves you reeling. And I think for the first year after he died, I was pretty much just in shock and trying to deal. I'll never forget, I was driving one day and I felt so unhappy, just like the weight of the world on my shoulders, so miserable. And there was a lot of guilt associated with that, because I'm like, man, I have a house, I have a good job, I have a great husband, I have all these positive, good things happening to me in life, and I'm miserable. And so, I'd berate myself for that. You're lucky to have these things and you should feel grateful for them. What's wrong? But it was finally that question, what's wrong? What is eating at me and what's making me feel this way? And I couldn't get to the bottom of it really at that point in my life, but it's when I started feeling it and things, unraveled from there a little bit. My marriage unraveled, and I think I really started to feel the effects of my dad's suicide and realizing how far I'd buried that. And somebody once told me, when you bury something, eventually it starts to smell. It just took a while.
I would have to say around the time of my divorce, when my marriage started to fall apart. I never, felt that I dealt with it. I was one that always covered my feelings, buried them. things that happened to me that I never told a soul or told my family about, things that I endured. I always kept them in, and I felt I was strong because I was dealing with them. It wasn't really until my divorce where I learned that feelings that I had was depression.
There are different things that can bring on depression. Depression can be a multifaceted type of condition where it's a combination of a genetic predisposition, even in addition to a childhood trauma, adult trauma. It can also be something that's socially environmental in terms of their household. It can also be situational. What's important to know is that depression is very different from sadness. Sadness, everyday sadness, people get depressed, and I think we overutilize the word depression.
When I was like 15 years old, I just thought that I was different from other people because I would see other people smiling and I didn't understand that smile. I smiled, but mine was like a clown smile. You know, there's a painted face on, but inside I wasn't smiling.
Sometimes I can pull out, but times I can't. The whole rest of this day gonna go wrong. It's like everybody else is having fun and I'm Debbie Downer. A lot of times it ain't nothing I could do about it.
It's not like fixing a leaky sink. You know, it's an ongoing thing. And for me, dealing with depression was looking at myself, looking in the mirror and finding out what is the root of this. My fiance Liz, when we'll talk about these things, she'll always say, where does it come from? And she'll cut to the bone, and it's hard, you know? And I'm thankful that I have her in my life to just ask those questions and not to run away from me, because there are times where I make it difficult. But she'll say, where's it coming from, man? And that is the hard part about dealing with this, is that in admitting that you have a problem, you have to deal with it. And I started looking back on things. It's like, oh, this came from childhood, and I've been carrying this around for 30, 40 years. And overcoming that is hard and it's painful, and you have to accept some really difficult things. I have to accept my faults.
A bad day for me would be, I would just not be motivated to do anything. Like, I don't even want to get out of the bed. I don't want to do anything. I don't want you to talk to me. I don't want you to say anything to me. Don't give me any tasks to do. It's just, I don't feel like doing anything. It's like a weight, like something just pulling down on me, like just dragging me under, and I don't feel like connecting with anybody. I don't want to have anything to do with anybody. It just goes bad.
A bad day for me is, extreme sensitivity. Just this unshakable feeling of like angst, like inner angst, like everything is just aggy, like everything. My kids come down the stairs too fast. I'm aggravated. I know I'm aggravated, but I feel almost paralyzed at times to stop it. It's like I'm feeling inside of a suit, inside of a coat, inside of a box, behind a fence, inside of some city, on some island where I'm the only person there. I don't want that. I want to be where everybody else is at.
Dealing with depression day to day is like constantly having my guard up. There's anxiety that comes from it. Because sometimes it just gets set off by something I don't even know about. Like the wind blows and all of a sudden I'm sad. It's exhausting. And if I don't take care of myself physically and emotionally, it starts to get stronger. So it's like there's this constant battle going on. And some days it's just tiring, man. I just don't want to fight. I just want to exist. And there are days when I just have to turn everything off and sit in my chair.
I wake up sometimes, and I'm a chaplain at a psychiatric hospital. And so I have to preach 7 services on Sunday. And sometimes I wake up and I want to call off work because I don't feel like I'm qualified to do anything. You know, I have 4 degrees, but I feel like I'm not good enough to do any of that. And so you wake up and you don't want to get up. You don't want to wash up. But I've learned through therapy and through, God, is you get up. You force yourself to get up. You go wash your face, go take your shower, and put on, and you put on this smile.
It might be a day or two where I'm just like, this is just how I'm gonna be. This is just how I want to be. I'm just sad right now. I'm just hurting right now, and nobody understands it. Nobody's here with me. Nobody knows what I'm feeling. You gonna go through that. So I go through that sometimes where it's just like I won't tell nobody, won't nobody know, but I'm having one of those days where I don't feel like it.
Being sad is a very normal part of life, right? We have to be able to incur some type of pain because pain is a teacher. It motivates us. It teaches us. It says something is wrong. But when a person has depression, it's a whole nother animal that they have to deal with. They can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. They have an inability to see that things could get better. So if an individual suffers from a trauma, whether it's sexual, whether it's physical, whether it's emotional, it can cause a chemical imbalance if they don't already have a genetic predisposition for that chemical balance anyway.
I think most people remain silent about depression because of the societal stereotypes about depression. He crazy. He gonna be abusive. He might shoot up the movie theater, anything like that. And for me, I always wanted to represent strength. You feel like I might be. And I felt weak. I felt weaker than I did before. I felt just not in control of me. Like I was on autopilot. And how do you tell somebody? How do you tell somebody that I done thought about killing myself? How do you tell somebody that you cry for no reason? Especially a man. How do I tell my me? And at this time I was a lot younger, so we was a lot more raucous and rowdy. You know what I mean? So we was, you had more bravado. And so how do I tell some of the toughest guys that I know I'm weaker than I used to be?
Yeah, a lot of times I feel like I had to keep it to myself just because of image. An image, people look at you, you're so strong, oh, you're so beautiful, oh, you're doing this, you're doing that, but they can't see beyond, they can't. But if you really look in a person's eyes, their soul, you could see it, but a lot of people look beyond that. Sometimes I'll say to my grandmother, and my grandmother, she's one of those people, she's old school, she'll be 81, and she just feel like you got to be as tough as her. So, I would say to her, maybe I'm dealing with something or I'm down. She'd be like, oh, I don't get depressed. It's always about them. They still forget to make it about what you're saying that you're going through. So oftentimes you may say something to people or speak to people. And I have friends like that too sometimes, where you may speak to them about what you're going through, dealing with, ailing, and they make it about them. So all the time you don't have people around you that can help support you and bring you up and out of what you're feeling. They tend to want to bury it. And you already feel buried. So you don't share it with people because you just feel like people aren't going to understand. They're just going to try to bury your feelings and tell you, oh, no, you don't feel like that. You shouldn't feel like that. This is this. But all the time you need somebody to open your eyes and your mind where it might be in you. You know these things, but sometimes you need somebody to feed that back to you and your spirit to help you up out of what you're going through. But all the time you don't get that. So you just choose to just keep it to yourself.
So there's a big stigma because many people suffer from depression, but they don't want other people to know that they suffer from depression, whether it's situational depression or chronic depression, suicidal depression. There's different types, but nobody wants anybody to identify them as depressed because there's a negative stigma in the community. If you're depressed, something's wrong with you, because depression feels black and darkness is negative when light is positive.
You know, it's easier to deny it, to not deal with it. So I think that that's part of it, but I also think that there are these ideas in our society that if you have a disorder or if you're depressed, there's something wrong with you. It's a weakness. And people aren't going to accept you anymore, or people are going to look at you in a different way. You might lose friends, or your job might treat you this way, or you might not get a job because of this. So I think, you know, if you have something wrong with your heart, you go to a doctor and you get it taken care of. But if you have something wrong with your brain, there's something wrong with that. Like, there's something wrong with you. So I just think that our society, I think we're afraid to talk about stuff that's real. We want to live in this perfect world where we have our nice big house and our cars and our kids and all these things. I think most people do suffer from something like this. And if we'd all just talk about it, it wouldn't make it so, it wouldn't make it such a big deal.
Some say I have an edge. I lack being refined because I prefer to travel my own path, to color outside the lines. Chaos has become my solitude, the way serenity through my eyes is sublime. Our morality will soon give way to reality. It is only a matter of time. My mind has graced the heavens, but my actions lay at hell's door, and my compassion's underscored by my humanity, yet and still love is at my core, and I exist forevermore. I'm life.
Depression has decimated every relationship I've ever been in. Not some of them. Every relationship that I ever been in ended as a direct result of my depression. Because depression inhibits your ability to see yourself the way other people see you. People can pat you on the back and say, Mike, you a hell of a man, but I feel like a shell of a man, you know what I mean? So it don't matter that a million girls, ooh and I don't see what they see. Oftentimes I thought that I was doing people a favor by breaking up with them because I felt if I didn't, I was gonna drag them down in their attempt to help me. I was gonna reach out, for the life raft, and this depression is so heavy that your raft it just can't withstand it. It's heavier than your raft, and we both gonna sink. Depression is an amplifier. It is like speaking in a megaphone, speaking in a microphone. So if my wife aggravated me, it was times 30 in my head, almost a deal breaker. Like everything was a deal breaker. That dumb stuff I hadn't come to grips with. It's me. It's easy to just say everything I'm feeling is because of you. And that's just what I did.
Depression has affected my relationships because at times it's difficult to deal with. I know it's hard for Liz because, sometimes I'm just down. or I'm stressed out about things and I'm worried about things. And she's very accepting and loving and supportive. And I'm very thankful for that. I know she's not going to give up on me. But it's hard because I don't want to be that person. I don't want to bring her down. I don't want to make her sad. I don't want her to worry about me, you know? But there are times where it's just too much. And I try to put my best foot forward. I try to be my best person. And I try to be someone that inspires her the way she inspires me. But there are times where I'm just down. And what's difficult is that when I start to feel down, then sometimes I lump on top of that because now I'm bringing her down, and it makes the depression even worse. But I realize it doesn't help in a relationship. I mean, it's part of it. We have to love each other for who we are, and life isn't perfect, and we're gonna face all kinds of things together in our lifetime. I see what happens when I'm depressed, how it can bring her down. And I don't wanna do that. I don't want this to get that grip on me that affects her and affects other people in my life, because I mean, I get it. I know she understands and she wants to be there for me, because when she gets down, I want to be there for her. So I understand it, and that's love. But there's that part of me that feels like life's short. You know, like I said, I lost 3 people in 3 years. So I have this feeling of being happy as much as I can, because time is flying by. So I don't want depression to get in the way of our time together. You know, a couple of days will pass and I'll think, man, I've been down for the last couple of days and we can't get these days back. So I'm trying to get ahead of it because she deserves it, you know? And, you know, I never thought, after my wife died, I never thought that I would find love again. I didn't want to, and I have. I found someone that I want to spend the rest of my life with. And so I don't want this depression to get in the way of that. I don't want to regret missing time because I was sad and I didn't overcome things. So I think that's been the biggest motivator for me, aside from wanting to feel better myself, is that here's this person who has committed her life to me, and she deserves, like, I'm doing this for me, but I'm also doing it for her, you know, because she believes in me. So, yeah, I don't want depression I don't want to lose something great in my life because of depression.
I need to be around people who understand that I might just need to be in their presence, maybe watching a movie, maybe going for a ride, maybe chilling at the lake. Nothing really extreme, just the atmosphere of love, the atmosphere of family, the atmosphere of inclusion. When I'm alone by myself, it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm moping. I just need to be in a space of silence, because one of the things that I do not like the most is when people say, oh, you're going to be okay, because I'm a minister and because I teach the word, because I preach the word. People expect me to just always be happy, like everything is always all together and lovely. And I'm a real person. And I have feelings, and my feelings matter as well. And sometimes they're not considered. And so I like to be around people who consider me and are intentional concerning me and how I feel.
A day in my world, in my life, is just to keep moving on. You know, even when I'm dealing with stuff, I just feel like I got to keep it moving, you know, because I can't get stuck in it, because I can easily sink into getting stuck in it. I've been there where I don't want to go nowhere. I don't want to do nothing. I don't want to interact with people. And I feel like just because I get up and go to work every day that I'm doing something, but I'm not. You know, I let it get to me where I don't want to, you know, be around people, or I just, you know, I live to myself, and I suffer and deal with this every day, you know, but I don't like to, you know, look at myself, you know, as a victim or as I'm suffering. I like to look at myself as a survivor and that I'm living through depression. I don't want to let it get the best of me, because I still fight with it on a day-to-day basis. I cry myself to sleep probably every night. It's not a night goes by that I don't cry myself to sleep. no matter what it's from. But there's not a night that I don't cry myself to sleep. It's not a day that aching feeling is not inside of me, because it is there. But I just choose not to let it more or less shine through what I want people to feel and see. It's like I sacrifice a lot of myself for other people, because it's like I want to be the light to help somebody else, even if it's at sacrificing myself. That's why I felt it was important for people to know, what I deal with, so that it can encourage them that you can live through it, because depression will kill you, and not in the physical stance, but it'll kill your spirit, it'll kill your soul, because that's what it's designed to do.
People say, just cheer up, pick yourself up, go out and do things, try this, try that. But some days it's all you can do to, cope, to survive, to keep breathing and get to the next moment. I think some people think you want pity, or that you're just you want some kind of sympathy and all of this. Or I've had people say, like, so, all right, so how do you fix it? You need to fix it. And, I think for some people, for me, like, I'll probably struggle with it my whole life. And there are things that have caused this for me, whether they're, inherited and they're genetic, or they're circumstantial from things that have happened in my life. But those things aren't going to go away. I can work to make them a little bit better, but it's not going to be something that I could just turn off, or that I can take a pill, or I can just see a therapist long enough and then I'm going to be fixed. Like, it's not that kind of a problem for everybody.
I just knew something was wrong, and I didn't want to be here, because this world I couldn't see past teenage years. I just knew I wasn't going to be here. So I never had a dream of success or life. Everything was just gloomy. And there was always this cloud following me. When I would walk up the stairs, I thought something was going to grab me, take me down under the stairs. It was just always there.
What's up, man? I pop up on you, man. It's dark in here. Curtains closed. I mean, you're already drinking. What's up, man? Talk to me. Tony, how long we been knowing each other, man? Come on. How long?
Since we was kids.
Since the sandbox. I mean, we practically came off the porch together. And you want to sit there and act like you can't talk to me, man. Come on, man, talk to your brother.
I can't explain it, man. It's like I'm here, but I'm not here. It's like I'm drowning, man, but I just won't die.
What the hell does that mean?
I'm just saying.
No, I'm just saying. You got a beautiful wife. Your money's right. Kids. Friends. I just don't understand all this moping around stuff.
Yeah, but that's just it, man. You won't understand. I'm like, yeah, I know I got money, I got family, but I got this weight on my back that's crushing me. I can't think.
Do you hear yourself? You talking real silly right now, man. Pull your skirt down, man. Yo, you acting soft. Look, T, I hear you and all.
That's just it, man. You hear me, but you're not listening. You're too busy telling me what's wrong, but you're not listening to what I'm saying.
All right, then, what you saying?
I'm saying I'm sick.
You sick?
I'm sick, JD.
What, you got cancer or something? What's wrong with you?
Oh, man, I'm depressed.
You ain't depressed. Yeah, you may be a little sad and all, but you're not depressed, man. Only weak cats get depressed. Look, come on, man, stop acting soft on me. Look, don't no black man suffer from depression.
You still don't get it, JD. It's been 10 years since I've been happy. Since I smiled without faking it. Like, you have any idea, man, how it feels not to be able to connect with your kids because you can't find it in your heart? Can you imagine looking at your wife and tell you love her, but you know you don't mean it? Like looking in the mirror and don't like what you see. Like, that's my world every day. So if you here to help, man, cool. But if you here to make me feel worse, man, you can get out.
So you serious, man? You depressed?
Dead serious.
Well, all right, man. All right. Yo, whatever you need, I'm here, man. Just help me better understand.
Men and women both incur depression. Women will most likely verbalize their depression, where men will most likely suffer in silence. And that's mostly a social issue as to why men will suffer in silence, because it's not socially acceptable for men to be considered vulnerable or weak.
It's very frustrating when you want to be excited with everybody else, but you don't really feel it, so you have to try to make yourself, be excited or make it appear that you feel the same way as everybody else. It's very frustrating, almost pulls you deeper into a sadness. It makes me sensitive to criticism. It'll make your emotions extreme, so if we're out and we're having a good day and everything's going great and somebody may say something wrong or, to me, it may not so much be wrong, but I'll take it personal. You try to recover from it because you know that they just joking. But sometimes it just sends you downhill. I can't come back from it, or I'll have to isolate myself so I can mentally, pull myself out of it, if possible.
One of the biggest things of depression that I struggle with is the inability to be present or to give value to the great things you do. All or nothing,
My life without hip-hop, me without a rhyme. It's like an inner city block without crime. Dog, it's like a battlefield without a mind. A stick-up kid without a nine.
I've had a great career in the things I've done a lot of things, but rarely do I give myself the credit. And then when people give me the credit, I don't feel like I deserve the credit. But when I sit back in retrospect and think of what I did, I be in awe of it, like, dang. But that's all you did? Like, what else? That's it? I made movies, wrote books. I did bodybuilding. I won a few bodybuilding titles. I had a couple top 100 albums. I toured. Been around the country, doing concerts, doing shows. But none of that gave me the sense of peace that I thought it would. None of that gave me that peace.
I could be cruising along, windows down, 60 miles an hour, radio on, sunny day, and something triggers this thought, and then it's a storm. So I feel like I have to constantly try to stay ahead of it, which is exhausting. But I can try to get ahead of it. And I try to take care of myself. I try to take breaks. I try to stop. I try to meditate. I try to really address the things that I'm feeling and not let them start to stack up, because then it's like having a desk covered in paperwork. But it's always there, and I know it. And the more that I'm aware of it, the more that I try to recognize the triggers. I stopped drinking and doing anything that will affect me that way, smoking pot. I realized that that's a huge difference. Alcohol was affecting me in a really bad way. But I'm finding these things that I have to do to stay ahead of it. I have to eat well. I have to rest. I have to be honest with myself. I have to take care of myself. And if I don't do those things, it gets harder and harder to not let the depression start to overtake me. And then, there are times when it gets in there, it's like, all right, man, I'm in for now.
Next time, I'll be a little wiser. Next time, I'll be a little stronger. Next time, next time, next time, I'll be a little bit clearer. Next time.
My name is Jordan Capacasa, and Ed is my brother. I definitely dismissed it because I thought maybe it was just, something was wrong. I didn't think anything of depression or anything like that. I thought maybe it was just like, sometimes I have little mood swings, and I thought maybe it was just a mood swing. I guess I got wrapped up in my own life too much to, look to see maybe what was wrong with my brother. I guess selfishness kind of kicked in because instead of worrying about what was wrong with him or what he was doing, it was something that I thought maybe he was just going through at that time, and maybe something he would just get over. But I never said anything to him. I never said anything to my mom or anybody else in the family. It was just, Ed's sad. That's it.
I'm Terry Bisgrove. Ed Capacasa is my son. Being a first-time mom, I didn't think anything was wrong. I guess hindsight, I see that there were some things that were going on, but marked that I see was when he was about 21. He started getting more withdrawn. He liked to be up in his room more. He spent a lot of time in his room. We argued a little more. Things were more tense between him and his brother. I was newly divorced. I attributed it to that, thinking that maybe some of this could have been my fault.
When Ed has a bad day, I don't really see too much of him without much conversation between the two of us. And when he gets back into his room, that's really about it for the day. He recluses. A bad day is just not much talking. Nobody says much to him. He doesn't say much to us. And you don't see too much of him either.
When Ed's having a bad day, he may wake up at anywhere between 10 o'clock in the morning to 5 o'clock in the afternoon. There's been a couple times where he's woke up at 5 o'clock in the afternoon simply because he cannot sleep. So it has the insomnia factor also. Depression can also make you not be able to go to sleep as much as you want to. Your mind doesn't shut off. Battling these issues in Ed's life has, I think, worn him down sometimes. He wants to be like everyone else. He really does. I'm so proud of the fact that he finally acknowledged that something was wrong. He just knew something wasn't right. Because apparently when he was younger, he was all right. Or it was just slowly starting to show itself. But I know he feels down sometimes. I know there's so many times that my other son goes to the movies or goes bowling, and I know he wishes he could go during the peak times when everybody's out having a good time and everybody's bowling. Instead, he would prefer to do something like that when no one's around.
It's taken him away from all the good things in life that normal people get to experience. He doesn't get to really enjoy the sunlight, when it's nice out. I think it just takes away from every aspect of his life. It takes away from the joy. It takes away from the relationship with people. It just takes away so much, and it's not fair. I just want him to enjoy all the things that other people get to.
How does he see himself? I think he sees himself as a little incomplete, he wants more. He wants more. He wants to do things. He feels good. He feels good in his own skin, but I know there's mornings where he wakes up that he just wishes. I'll see him look outside sometimes. You know, I'll see him look out the window, wishing he was outside. And sometimes he just simply can't.
I think the way that he may see himself is, I guess, maybe as a burden, just because he didn't choose this. He didn't wake up one day and make a conscious decision that this is what he wanted. So for him to have to deal with this every single day, I think he may look at himself as less than.
You can't love somebody out of depression. How could you love somebody who don't love themselves all the time or who don't see the worth that you see? So you think you gonna overcompensate and give them more love and they're gonna snap out of it? It doesn't work like that. It's at best, depression is a dimmer switch. You could turn it down, turn it up. A lot of times people think it's a light switch. Or people will say things like, you know, I was depressed and I snapped out of it. Well, I don't know what type of depression you were in, how long you were in, what was the triggers, what was the root, or any of that. I just know what I'm feeling. And so a lot of times, depressed people are harder on depressed people because I think depressed people want to say, at least I'm not that depressed, especially if you have different ways that it manifests. Like say you the type of depressed person who's bedridden, like, you know, you can't come out the house, you can't get out the bed, it's hard to get started. But I can do that. But I can't keep a job because my interpersonal skills is off. You see what I'm saying? So you start saying, well, at least I can get out the bed every day. Yeah, to do what? Watch TV because you can't keep a job. So I think, you know, a lot of times depressed people is hard on depressed people.
I think that people have this idea that if you suffer from depression, you're just sad. Like, oh, you know, it's not real. You know, just be happy. But it comes from real stuff, you know? Like, it's not just like you can turn a switch and you can be happy. I think when people try to knock it off as someone being weak, it's not about that. I think that there's also strength in this, though. Because for me, recognizing and facing depression has led me to see who I really am and strength that I didn't know that I have. So the idea that people have that if you're depressed, you're weak, I think that that's a misconception. I think it takes a lot of courage to admit something like that. A lot of strength and a lot of dedication while dealing with something that at times can be, you know, debilitating.
If I continue to grow my spirit, that I will be able to combat and overcome depression at some point. Will it totally be out of my life? You know, probably not. You know, but if I choose to live and see me as I see me and not as the title that they want to put upon me, then that helps me to continue to live and strive for better. But I think in learning it, it teaches you how to cope and deal with it in your life and how to be, you know, victorious in dealing with it when you learn it, when you know it. You got to know it and you got to know yourself. You know, you can't just be in denial. I'm not going to go get no help. I don't need no help. I don't need this. I don't need to talk to nobody. What we need to go to a psychiatrist. You know, I know people be like, what you want to go talk to a therapist for? Who does the therapist talk to when they're having problems? It's just that concept, that warped way of thinking that we've been taught. But it's sometimes somebody who doesn't know you, doesn't know anything about you, who may be able to give you the best perspective about yourself.
As far as battling depression for the rest of my life, I don't know whether or not there's any kind of cure or answer for it, but I believe everybody has their issues, their faults, their flaws that they have to deal with. You know, it's just like that thorn in your side. I don't know why this was placed in my lap. I don't know why, you know, this happened to me. But I believe that there's a greater purpose, a greater plan, a greater reason. Maybe it's not even about me. Maybe it's about helping other people. Maybe it's about touching somebody else. And this is just what, you know, God placed in my life to be my thorn in my flesh.
I want people to know about depression, that we didn't ask for this. Nobody asked to be born with depression. Nobody asked to be an alien within their body. Nobody asked to have to fight sometimes just to get out the bed because you believe in yourself and you believe that you are worthy. Nobody asked to have that burden and that weight placed on them. Nobody asked for that. We didn't ask for that. It's just something that we have to deal with. And I'm glad, and it might sound crazy, but I'm glad that God chose me to deal with it, because so many other people did not deal with it, and they thought that they were alone, and they believed it, and they took their life. And so I can be an advocate for all of those who no longer have a voice, because I understand it, and I know the pain, and it's real, and it cuts to the core of who we are.
One of the things that can drive an individual to actual suicide is that they don't want to suffer anymore. They can't suffer anymore. If individual starts to have a will, or they start calling people that they haven't talked to in a long period of time, they will start doing these things because they're preparing it. They have come to a resolution.
When you hurting, all perspective goes out the window. You know, sometimes you forget everything that's in you. Sometimes, you know, it's in you, but when you hurting, you can't see nothing but that hurt. You can't see anything but that pain, and you just want it to stop. I know that feeling of wanting to die and feeling like your options are, I want this pain to stop. You know, a lot of people think that people commit suicide selfishly and they don't think about this thing. And it's not that they don't think about their family or other things. All they're thinking about is wanting this feeling to stop.
Men tend to complete their suicide rate at a higher percentage than women. Now, women attempt more, but men complete. Women tend to choose least lethal methods. So if they'll take pills, maybe cut themselves or something like that. Men will complete. They will typically shoot themselves or hang themselves.
2 a.m, and, you know, I walked over to the dresser and I got the gun out the dresser, you know, and I came back, and, you know, it's like a flood of emotions that go through your head when you going through that. But I can say honestly now that I was going to do it. You know, I don't know when they say they're going to commit suicide, I don't know what that feeling of today is the day feels like for them. But it was a moment of clarity, negative clarity, but clarity just the same. That clarity being, you are right, you can't do this for 60 more years or 50 more years. And I remember just sitting down on the bed thinking, no, this is it. And said, I'm gonna go into the basement. We had a basement. I said, I'm gonna walk into this basement and I'm gonna shoot myself. And I just remember my daughter woke up. And I'm not like a religious guy like that. She woke up and she grabbed my shoulder and she was like looked at me like the straightest face I ever seen. It was like, don't leave me again. She fell back to sleep, just like calm as you please, like right back to sleep. And I knew then that, this wasn't what I was supposed to do. But it was, and I clearly remember this thought process at the time. I can't do this. How can I live 50 more years, 30 more, 10 days more of this? How am I do that? But I remember thinking then, I can't dump at her feet the same pain that I'm going through. And I done been selfish, I mean, it ain't no doubt if I didn't, I was gonna do it this time. It ain't no doubt if I ain't have my kid that I'd be gone. I mean, my kids. I just hope that they can understand when they get older. That whatever I did or didn't do, I was working with the best I had at that moment. The best word that I could use to describe depression, I'm gonna have to say pressure. Depression is like an immense amount of pressure. It's just bearing down on you. But it ain't always like that, because sometimes, things is great. Life is good. You know what I'm saying? And I can see a future. But other times, man, it's just like that monkey on your back. Who do you turn to when you feel like that?
So God is the God who is here, there, and everywhere. God is the God I can tell my secrets to, and my business won't be out in the street. And so to turn to religion is not just to turn to it because of faith stories that folks have been healed of their mental health challenges and of depression. It is also that I am in a supportive community, but I am also able to turn to a God who can keep my secret, that I feel like I'm slowly losing myself.
I often pray that God gives me peace. That's like the biggest request for me. I believe that God has put me here for a reason. He has given me purpose. And if this is what I have to deal with, if depression is my thorn, then I just pray that He gives me peace so that I can better understand and better fulfill His will for my life.
One of the reasons people at the early onsets of depression may seek out a religious institution or religious body is because ingrained within our culture is that I have a problem, I need help. The challenge becomes is that some of us are uncomfortable sharing with the people within our community that we actually think we're slipping into depression. But we also have to be careful that faith does not become the crutch that prevents us from our own healing. And so when we move into counseling with someone for whom God cannot be every answer, even though God is the answer, we start to unpack some really deep stuff that requires us to face ourselves and then ask, now God, what do you say?
My choice of medicine is my spirituality. You know, I don't consider myself necessarily what people would call religious, you know, but I am a spiritual being. I do believe in the Most High. I want the Most High to use me to be that little peephole of light that will help somebody who is in darkness see that there's a little peephole of light. And that little peephole of light is your mustard seed of faith that you can come up out of what you're dealing with.
People tend to think that church is a cure-all, and I think we've been guilty as far as how we've preached the gospel to people, that if you have gone through anything, you come to us, we'll fix it. And I think that instead of telling people that outside of religion, there's people that can help you. And sometimes we think that just because a person comes to the altar, we pray for them, that everything is going to be all right, their problem is going to dissipate. And as soon as they leave out of this building, that they're not going to face what they had to face before they came in.
In the faith-based community, I think most people see depression as you are just fighting a war against the devil, and that you need to pray more, you need to fast more, you need to read your word more. And what I say to that is, you trust God for everything or you trust God for nothing. So don't look at me and judge me and tell me that I need to pray more. When you're taking a pill for your headache, why don't you pray more? When you're taking insulin for diabetes, why don't you pray more? When you're taking pills for hypertension, why don't you pray more? When you go to a dentist for a toothache, why don't you pray more? So it's all of God or none of God. And so if you can trust that God works through those avenues, then trust that I can go and anyone else can go get help, to be helped when we feel as though we're going through depression and just feel like our bottom is just falling out.
Depression is a spirit, and it can overtake you, and it chases after you. It's like your shadow. It's always there. Well, in the church, what they say is, oh, you don't need counseling. You just need God. You just need to pray. Greater is He that is in you than he that is in the world. And so depression is that spirit. So all you have to do is say, get thee behind me, Satan, and it's gone. That's not what happens. You know, it's not gone, because Satan is not gone. He will flee, yes, but that doesn't mean he's gone.
I'm not a very religious person, but I'm a very spiritual person. I understand that it's something guiding me, moving me. It was a time where I wasn't dealing with spirituality or religion or anything. I actually thought I was being punished for questioning. I thought this was punishment for wondering, is it a God? Because I got a scientific nature. You know, I ask a lot of questions about anything. So I tried to pray harder, just be, and it still wasn't going away.
Therapy is a great tool for me because it helps me to process my thoughts. I think one of the things that the doctor has helped me with is to deal with thought errors. There are things that you think about that they may just not be true. And the way you view yourself as being worthy or unworthy, however you think about yourself, is it true? And she helped me to validate my thoughts.
I think I will always be in therapy, and it's been a tremendous help to me, and I recommend it all the time to people. I think almost everybody could benefit from it. When it goes untreated, it could lead to really bad things, like what happened to my dad. So part of it for me is realizing that if it is a genetic issue for me, that it's not likely something that I can just stop. And the reason I've stayed in therapy all these years is because it's always continued to help me. Like, depression evolves just like you do as a person. It changes with the circumstances in your life. Some days you feel happier and you look back to where you were a week ago and you're like, man, how was I so low? And I thought, I can't see out of this. And then a week later, you feel better.
When a person comes to me and they're suffering with depression, it's a case of self-defeating thoughts. They're constantly ruminating about thoughts. I can't, I won't, I'm not, I shouldn't. And it causes their personality and their emotions to implode. So I can take statements, self-statements of I can't, I won't, I'm not, I shouldn't, and immediately with hypnosis in the brain, reconvert those to positive suggestions. I can feel good about myself, I will feel good about myself, and I am going to feel good about myself. And the reason becomes clear, because I want to feel good about myself.
My antidepressant worked hard to help with my depression. But sometimes I still struggled to get going, even get through the day.
I feel like I have to wind myself up just to get out of bed. Then, I have to keep winding myself up to deal with the sadness, the loss of interest, the trouble concentrating, the lack of energy.
If depression is taking so much out of you...
My thoughts on medication are that it may not be for everyone, but taking an anti-anxiety medication has helped me. Some of my sisters had suggested that I should try an anti-anxiety medication because they had used some and it was helpful for them. But it was that same thought process of, no, I don't want to take a pill. I have to be able to deal with this on my own. And I thought if I take a pill, then I'm going to be weak and I'm going to rely on something else and not myself. But I started to run out of options because no matter what I was trying, it seemed like it wasn't working. And I decided to take this anti-anxiety pill, and it's been helpful. A friend of mine made a good comparison. He said, if you have a table that's wobbly, you put a little block underneath it to keep it from wobbling. And that's how he views anti-anxiety meds.
The therapist wanted to, she diagnosed me with depression, a severe depression. She wanted to put me on, I don't even remember what it was back then. It was some kind of antidepressant medicine. And I remember just thinking, this is what you give crazy people. And I'm like, I'm not crazy. I just battled with so many different feelings that I refused to take the medication that they prescribed me, and I choose to seek Jesus. I choose to seek the Most High to help me, because I believe that if anybody or anything can help me up out of this, from my spiritual background, it had to be the Most High.
At this point, I don't want to take drugs at this point, because I don't want my judgment, my vision cloudy. From when I took the drugs before, I just felt out, just cloudy, edgy. I just was like, that's not for me. But I do know that drugs are necessary. When you have a heart condition, you take blood pressure medicine, you take blood thinners, you take Tylenol for headaches. So there is a place for medication for mental health. It is a place. But for me, it's not something I was willing to do for the rest of my life. So I had to come up with some alternative solutions, therapy, going to see a therapist who can help you not only get to the leaf or the twig or the branch, but to the root of what it is you're going through. One of the things people do, I tell everybody, do not, under any circumstances, make yourself your own doctor. Go get a professional. Because once you get in your own head, you're gonna mess yourself up.
The medication that I was put on was Zoloft. And those medication cleared me. It didn't make you high or nothing like that. It cleared my head so I can think. You cannot process unless your head is cleared, because depression, it's a chemical imbalance, and you have to have medication to stabilize you so you can think straight. It's like a fog, like a cloud, and if you don't get it cleared, you can't see anything to process it. And so I truly believe that medication is needed, just like if you have high blood pressure, diabetes, you have to take medication.
Right now, there's not a cure for depression, but people utilize medications, but honestly, only 30% of people actually get better from medications. So it's a combination of medication, of therapy, and different behavioral changes that a person has to do in order to manage actual diagnostic major depression episode. Again, that's very different from people who go through everyday sadness.
I don't know if this thing called love is a good thing. Well, could it be that this thing called love is a scam? Oh, so low is how it goes. I don't know about love. 7 times in a week it makes me feel happy.
I still get sad sometimes. I have my bad days. I'm still not perfect in many ways. I still have bad moments and feel pain, but I bless it. Don't curse it. It's not the same.
I'm a survivor.
I am a survivor.
Survivor is my name.
Survivor is my name.
And I keep breathing and keep searching for meaning. Anything bad come my way is temporary and didn't come to stay. So I stay positive and focused and don't fall to the brink.
I have shifted my mind and how I think. What you think about, you bring about. And this I now know.
If you focus on negativity, it will only grow. Speak peace. Seek peace.
Speak peace. Seek peace. Let gratitude flow. As long as I have breath, there is hope. As long as you have breath, there is hope. You don't have to see past your current situation. Just believe. Take a deep breath. And just breathe.
And you can live through it. It's not living with it. You're living through it. It may be a part of your day-to-day life, but you can live through it. Don't let, the depression suck everything out of you. Another thing is faith. Also, I want people to see that it's okay. It's normal, everyday people that deal with depression. It's people that you look at and you think, oh, they have everything together. They're successful. They're millionaires. They're this, or people love them. They have this persona to the world, and people see that. Just know that it's everyday people like that. They're dealing with depression.
I finally found happiness in myself, and a belief in myself, and acceptance of myself, and I just don't want depression to take those things away like it has for a lot of my life. But I hope that people will watch this and they'll have their own thoughts. They'll take what everyone is saying here and make it their own thing. That they'll look at themselves honestly. And if they feel these things, they'll realize it's okay. Like, you're not alone. There is a solution to a problem. And there's a way to face it. There's a way to deal with it. If you're depressed, it doesn't mean your life's over. It doesn't mean that you can't overcome this. That there are things you can do, there are people you can talk with, that you don't have to, that you're not powerless.
I hope for my future that because I am dealing with depression, like I said, I don't know why this is my cross to bear. I don't know why this is my thorn in my flesh. But I know that God has a greater purpose. And I hope that in sharing my testimony that I'll be able to give people the strength they need to, become aware of their own issues if they're battling depression or any other kind of mental illness. And they'll have the courage to come forward and say, hey, I need help too. How did you get by? And I can share my testimony with them and, help other people. So that's what I hope to get out of, sharing.
It's because I've had moments where I've been solo, and then I have moments where I feel better, and I look back at the low moments and I realize they're temporary, So for me, my why has been like, there are good things around the corner, and sometimes you can just hang on through the bad, because there's a lot of great things in this world to live for, It's different for everybody what those things are, but I've always been able to find my way back up, And so every day, if I'm having the hardest day, I remind myself to hang on, because tomorrow could be a million times better.
I am ready to have a relationship, ready to be loved. And because I now know that I am lovable. And so my future is bright. I always tell people I need to put some sunglasses on to get all that shine in the future. So recovery it's a process, but it is doable. It is doable.
I know that God is with me because Romans 8:28 says, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. But even knowing that God is with me, I still at times feel alone. I still at times feel down. I still at times feel depressed and feel isolated. But I know He's with me. And that's why in those moments I go to my dark place, and not a dark place as in sad, but just alone, just so I can be with Him, just to be quiet and just to be still, so that I don't make the wrong choice, so that I don't allow my natural man to overtake my spiritual man. And so in my dark moments, that's what I'm doing. I'm praying and I'm waiting for God to tell me my next move, because the Bible says, be still and know that I am God. And so in those dark places, I'm just simply being still, because sometimes I don't know what to do.
Your friend lets you ride his bike and you break his bike. You just don't take it back to him broke. You attempt to fix the bike if it's in your power to fix it. And if it's not, you take it back and you say, man, I broke your bike. I feel like some of the things that I did, I can't take them back, but it's in my power to fix them, to attempt to fix them. And this documentary is funny because depression dogged me for 20 years. I know that depression is gonna be my salvation.
Depression is like being on one side of the fence. But everything you love, everything you hold true is on the other side of the fence. Peace is on the other side of the fence. Joy is on the other side of the fence. Your family, your friends, your children, your prosperity, your future is on the other side of the fence. You feel trapped on this side of the fence, caught in the evil clutches of depression, hurt, inner turmoil, tearing you to pieces. Everything you hold true rests on that side of the fence. Everything you hold dear rests on that side of the fence. All you want to do is get to that side of the fence, because on this side of the fence, there's nothing but despair. There's nothing but hurt. There's nothing but inner conflict and turmoil. And the fix is simple.
Crazy, I must be, 'cause I'm in love with you. And my vision's hazy, tears are overflowing, brown eyes blue. I cry like a baby, cry like a baby, all over you, all over you. You give sweet love, then take it